Our mission statement that was taken on is to make noticeable and sustainable improvement in every City of Memphis neighborhood through education, engagement, and enforcement of the city's property codes of ordinances. Uh, can y'all see the slides? I don't know what you're able to see. Okay, yeah. So neighborhood improvement is under the Division of Public Works, and it
Excuse me,
includes.
Marquise.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. If you put it on slide presentation, it'll go one slide at a time.
Right. So I don't
Okay.
know what you see. What do you see though? Do you see each slide?
Now we see the slide neighborhood improvement, code enforcement.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I was in fear that we may see the presenter notes. I apologize. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
If I can fix that right quick.
Okay.
No worries. I think we won't have a problem with that. I just keep it like this. So if this is not a problem, can it be seen pretty well? Okay. Well, under code enforcement, as was stated in the bio, under neighborhood improvement is the department's code enforcement, which includes residential code enforcement, special operations, which handle our condemnation and border requests, commercial code enforcement, environmental enforcement, ground services, and Memphis City Beautiful. Now, all of these other components, besides Memphis City Beautiful, pretty much are referred to by the public as code enforcement. And so oftentimes we have a lot of challenges. We spend time trying to explain to people that, yeah, technically it's code enforcement, but there are different departments that operate under the umbrella of neighborhood improvement. Now, Miss Eldra White represents Memphis City Beautiful, in my opinion, and every time I talk about it, we always refer to Memphis City Beautiful as the crown jewel in our department. So, because they're front facing, they're anti-blight in its rawest sense because they get out in the community and do the work. So, but next slide, if I can get it here. Okay. So code enforcement, the desire is to make a concerted effort to maintain the property values of all neighborhoods in Memphis. We work to prevent and protect the welfare of residents through property inspections, investigative efforts, condemnation, court action, and, as we already stated, residential code enforcement, condemnation, and commercial code enforcement. Now, before I go to my next slide, when I combed this slide, which I did not produce, it was a good presentation. One of my challenges is oftentimes the things that we talk about in these settings are the thing that people most have a concern about, the blight that hurts our eyes when we see our community going down. And so we'll go over that, and I'll talk about what my pet peeve is. The 10 most common code violations. And those of you who are familiar with code enforcement, you hear these all the time. If you've heard them before, heard them once, you've heard them 1,000 times. It's the things are accumulations of junk, trash, and debris, open storage of materials, those things you can't do at your home, parking and storing inoperable vehicles, excessive weeds, grass, trees, and shrubbery, substandard structures and fences, off the street parking, which is like parking on the grass, recreational vehicles like campers and all that kind of stuff. There are special provisions for trailers and things that are parked there. Commercial vehicles and equipment, abandoned and derelict structures, and repair shops. We really don't. That's basically referring to the residual effects of operating repair shops when you have inoperable vehicles, but technically that's county code. So these items kind of depict some of the things that we address on a daily basis, probably the most common things that we address. But in my opinion, what gets lost in the shuffle sometimes in a city like Memphis, who has a high poverty rate, and we have a lot of rental properties, we have a lot of people that are living in substandard housing. And one of the items that are not on here is the responsibility that the residential code enforcement people have with ensuring that people are living in conditions that are up to par. And oftentimes we go out after the cars, yards, and weeds challenges. But when somebody's living in mold situations or in houses where there's leaky water, leaky faucets, where there's no water, where there's no heat in the summertime, and where there's no heat in the wintertime and no air in the summertime. So these concerns that we have, it makes us have to concentrate our efforts a little bit differently, and that way we get into our prioritization program. So let's get an example of some of these items that we name in the 10 common code violations. And I stopped and said that about rental properties and housing conditions is because everything that we deal with is where housing and our environment impacts our health. People have health concerns and living in an environment that greatly impacts them, and it's a real challenge for us. So, but regarding the 10 common code violations, the accumulation of junk, trash, and debris, it's a horrible sight. And this affects, although I just talked about health, but this affects also mental health of the people around. It affects, it draws pests, rat harborage, and things like that. So we definitely want to address things like accumulation of junk, trash, and debris. It's against the code to allow open storage and furnishings and material out in the public. On your private property, it's not allowed. Here, parking and storage of inoperable vehicles, it's not allowed. Excessive weeds, overgrowth in property, vacant lots as well as, and those vacant lots are handled by ground services, which is also under neighborhood improvement. This is certainly an eye. So nobody wants to come out and see something looking like this in their community, in their neighborhood. So substandard structure. This looks like an outbuilding, someone behind someone's property. Here, parking on the grass, not quite ideal, but it doesn't even look like something. And some of the properties that we have in Memphis, because of the age of the construction, some of the people who developed didn't make driveways. So people are creative in regards to how they park their vehicles, but certainly inoperable vehicles are prohibited to be parked there. Special use or recreational vehicles. There are some challenges with them that we don't allow you to park these on the street, recreational vehicles. There's a question about commercial vehicles. Now, commercial vehicles have a special definition, and not necessarily build vehicles that you do business out of, which technically people think that's a commercial vehicle definition, but we have a weight proper that it's a definition inside of our code that defines what is determined to be a commercial vehicle. Abandoned derelict structures is what we address as well. Parking commercial vehicles like these 18-wheeler rigs on residential property, you can't do it. It's a question about parking them on the street. Who all handles those? I think MPD does handle it. Also, Shelby County Code Enforcement does. General service and repair shops. This is horrible. By no stretch of the imagination will one agency be able to handle something like this. So we would probably get county code involved, environmental, what you call a stormwater. There's a lot of problems out here. We would have a joint agency action going on this property. So, but in addition to those 10 common codes, we also have, the ways that we address those items. Like, for instance, when you're talking about the housing structure and the dangerous and derelict properties, we have the special operations team where we address deteriorated housing. We focus on compliance of the deterioration to unsightly and substandard vacant properties, and we put them on our vacant property registry. So a lot, put it like this right here. Our team is under the in the process of reevaluating. So some things that we have, we've been traditionally operating, we're working feverishly trying to produce an environment that can make our efforts more pronounced, less ignored, and where we can get more. I'll tell you more about some of the initiatives that we have going forward. But I just want to let you know some things are antiquated. But we do assist with boarding and securing properties when owners leave their properties open and they fail to do so by our required notification. We can hire contractors to board and secure properties. We do court order demolitions when properties go in court and the owners don't properly address properties that have been determined to be condemned and ordered to be demolished, and we'll take care of those. And certainly the Neighborhood Preservation Act, we handle Neighborhood Preservation Act referrals. We'll go deep into that later. Regarding the board and secures, we if a report of an open property, which is really dangerous, people have access to them and they can do nefarious acts in these abandoned structures. So we want to try to bring attention to them as soon as possible. So all of our due process time can be spent early, and we can get somebody out here to secure these properties if the owners fail to do so. We get the owners an opportunity to bring into the compliance, but if they don't comply, we'll ask a contractor to board up the property, and we, you know, and it's budget pending. So a lot of these things our budget has been reduced significantly. I think we're operating negatively with tearing down houses with our condemnation process, but we are continuing, and I know City Council is really concerned about how we tear down properties, how many we tear down, and we hope that they will give us enough resources to continue to demolish as many properties that the owners fail to demolish themselves. Our board and securing process, it alleviates potential crime threats when entering a home. That's just what we look at it as. If we secure this property well enough, then people won't, if they commit crimes, it won't be inside that property and it won't be a danger to the community. So hopefully looters and squatters and vandals won't do further damage to a property that has been abandoned and left to fester in the community. And this is an example of one of our boarded properties here. So, you know, it does some help. Sometimes people pry those things right off, but we try our best to send our contractors. If our partners in the community can notify us, we can send our contractors back out to secure any property that has been breached again. It's a lot, it's wordy, but it's a lot of work that goes into the condemnation process. The condemnation process is a court-ordered process to eliminate slum and blight. And really, you know, we can find ourselves in a situation like this in a community where people just divesting and leaving, and properties don't get better with time if people don't maintain them. So we know they deteriorate without maintenance. But there's also special instances with like fires in our community. So the sooner we know about a fire, the better. So we do get notifications from the fire department. So that actually helps us with lead time in a lot of cases. But once it has been determined that a property meets the requirement of being more than 51% dilapidated, then we enter it into our condemnation process, where we have a hearing, an on-site hearing, and sometimes it is referred to environmental court, and the owners have an opportunity to be heard to see why or why not they can't get their properties in compliance. And if they're not able to due to resistance or not being able to because of the lack of finances, then the city will demolish a property on their behalf and place a lien on their property for doing so in cases such as this. So, and I think we're a little lower than this. During the pandemic, everything slowed down, and we were, I guess, peaking around about 600 or 700 units per year. If I'm not mistaken, we were a little under 400 units on the last year, if I'm not mistaken. But we hope to ramp back up as things are opening back up. Neighborhood Preservation Act is what we mentioned earlier. This is an awesome tool that we have in our tool belt that I wish we, could do a whole lot more, because we certainly have a whole lot more properties that fit into a category that, could be referred to the Neighborhood Preservation Act court. But we don't have enough people to manage the number of properties that are in a dilapidated condition that could be referred in. So right now, I don't know exactly how many we have in MPA, but we are taking on new cases, I think to the tune of around additional 10 cases per month. And these allow neighbors or interested parties to bring civil action against the owners of a property that can't be maintained to the community standards. And the judge oversees the process. If they're not able to make the repairs, then we are able to order them to be demolished, or they can initiate a receivership where somebody who have the resources and can prove that they can bring the property up to standard, they can do just that. So you can see here, this is one of the properties that was entered into the MPA process. And here's the property after going through the process and getting somebody to come in and get it at least into some semblance of compliance. Our commercial code enforcement, the commercial code enforcement, I'm going to kind of speed through some of this stuff. Our commercial code enforcement team was recently brought over to Neighborhood Improvement Public Works, because as Ms. Joyce said in my bio, I came from the Memphis Fire Department, where the commercial anti-neglect team was actually housed under the fire department, where we were totally responsible for ensuring structural integrity of commercial buildings in the city of Memphis. And so now it's a good fit for the commercial team, which we have just increased our complement up to about 8 inspectors for commercial buildings. It's where you find buildings in your community that are dilapidated or in a poor condition. Those are things that we can address with the commercial code enforcement teams, like these buildings that we have on the slides. Actually, these are one of the cases, pictures of some of the cases that I had when I was at the fire department. We also have environmental enforcement. I'm gonna try to go through it a little faster. Environmental enforcement, which is also a new team to neighborhood improvement. This team is a birth child of our illustrious director, Mr. Robert Connect, and the team, who thought that we need to have a special team designed to go after those people who are bad actors and dumping, in areas, causing blight in areas where, if they would just properly dispose of items. And it's really become a great challenge during the pandemic. I think it picked up tremendously. But we have a team dedicated to go out and investigate these properties, investigate this debris. They go through and they find evidence linking them to individuals who might be doing illegal dumping. And oftentimes when we find evidence, we pursue those people and we bring them to court. We also have, I don't know if it's in the slide earlier in here, but later in here, but we have a camera team where we have a covert camera operation where we use cameras inside the confines of any particular dump site, and we use that to try to catch people dumping on camera. And we have been successful on that. I think that if we get better devices, and that's what we've been trying to do, get better devices, increase our team. We could be even more successful and increase our partnership with like Memphis Police and things like that. We are able to find people. I got a good case today of an illegal dump site with somebody was, and it was a commercial person who knows better, who has a dump truck, who knows where to dump items, and we caught them on camera and we had good footage. So I'm just saying, this is a living, breathing idea, environmental enforcement. It is working and growing, and we just appreciate your support with environmental enforcement. Some things that we do, we enforce some of the solid waste violation. This really was designed that people who don't properly dispose of their waste items, whether it be illegal dumping and sometimes a solid waste in vacant properties, our environmental enforcement team will get that information and have these owners to correct these deficiencies that they have placed on their properties. If they find illegal dumping regarding oil and other chemical stuff, we work together with the storm drain team to ensure stormwater protection. They really identify the hazards that breach our water systems, and really I use them a lot because I find companies who dispose of their waste out of their buildings and let it run down into our storm drains, and our inspectors or officers are really geared toward looking for challenges like that alongside illegal dumping. And this slide speaks to the camera operation that we have and the used tire operation, where we try to work with our used tire shops to identify the type of volumes of tires that they keep, and try to identify who are the tire generators. If you've noticed, there's a lot of areas with dump sites with huge amounts of tires. And so we try to, do a correlation to have these people investigate where these tires could be coming from. And sometimes we catch tire shops and we shut tire shops down. Illegal dumping, you've all seen this stuff. This is horrible. And like our camera operation, we catch people. And if we get tags, if we get people to identify, and we got some ideas on the horizon about how we can have the public to help us identify people who are actually caught doing this thing to our city. And we're finding a lot of times it's people, our neighbors, Mississippi, Arkansas, Bartlett, Germantown. Sometimes they come into Memphis in these areas, and we find sometimes that they dump in our city. So ground services, and I'm trying to speed through this. Ground services is the team that we have that we have a group of compliance specialists who go out, who canvass our neighborhoods. They identify vacant lots that become overgrown. And once they identify those, we send a notification out to the owners. And once we notify the owners that they're in violation, if they don't comply, we hire contractors to go out and clean or cut those lots, clean and cut those lots. Because of the demand, and last year we had a late start due to some contractual issues. This year we are well on pace to getting started on time. But last year we had a challenge. So what it caused us to do was to produce an in-house team. We didn't have an in-house team. So now when we have some challenges or we can't get a contractor to move fast enough, we have a team that can handle some basic size lots in-house. And it becomes a challenge when you have a contractor to do a job and he gets 40 jobs and he can't get to them. Well, your only recourse in that case is to grab those jobs from him and assign them to another contractor who already has 40. And so it becomes more challenging. So we try to think through these things and come up with ideas how we can overcome the challenges that we face. So, like we say, once we cut the property, and if this and we end up having to cut it, we bill the property owners and put it on the tax bill. We put it on your Shelby County tax bill. And so we have let me see. They also fund the ground services fund the Clean Pathways project. This program provides litter-free pathway for students by removing litter and tires, cleaning clogged storm drains within a 3-mile radius of Shelby County Schools. So we have 2 nonprofits that I know of that we've been working with through the years. And you know, it was kind of intermittent when I came on. I came on in the middle of the pandemic, as we said before, and by schools not coming, you know, not coming to school, but we still had them cleaning those pathways in the neighborhood around those Shelby County or Memphis Shelby County schools. So, you know, that's a really good tool that we can use in areas that are near schools to ensure people get to where they need to go when it comes down to school, people going to school. So 2018 statistics, so I know that's about 4 years ago. So this is, it is a good statistics, because you think about, you know, the number of work, the things that we do. We don't have a lot of metrics on this except lots that we cut. But when you think about, we resolve 35,000 service requests. This is just ground services. And he said 47,000 illegally disposed tires. Now, I don't know the statistics. I don't have them in front of me from last year, but I bet you we beat that 47,000. And it says that we collected over 330,050 pounds of tires. That's some real numbers. We collect tires daily, and not only do ground services do it, but there's also, which is not under our division, but the Public Service Corps also assists with that, and that adds to our numbers. Now, that ends me describing all of our service centers besides Memphis City Beautiful. But I would like to say, I guess I can stop my control. Let me see if I can cancel. Can you take the control back? I got it. There we go. Yeah. So I would like to say, you know, this is, you know, our neighborhood improvement department is a very active. It's very fluid. We have a team that just got off, I guess, 10 minutes ago for our second shift that kind of works for people who have after-hour requests with people parking on the grass, or people who have problems in their apartments or rental properties, and they work during the day. And, you know, before at about 5 o'clock, code enforcement is done, but they are now getting home, and we can't make appointments sometimes when people have to work. So we have a team designed specifically for that reason that can go after hours and meet clients and determine where their challenges are. So with that being said, I was asked by one of our constituents that offer a lot of good advice. And Ms. Alekos, I don't know if she's on the call, but she offers a lot of good advice, as do some of you on the call. We talk, I see some of my good partners on the call now that we talk often with. But she made me, was not in the presentation, wanted to talk to the team about managing expectations with 311. Oftentimes we think that when we call 311, the matter is decided. And a lot of times these things are more complex than that. And she had a lot of good commentary, and I won't be able to go over everything that she said, but maybe we may be able to cover it in the question and answer. The 311 is our primary. People get frustrated with it, but it's our primary way of tracking our requests. If you want the clock to start ticking on the things that you report to us, 311 is the primary tool, and then getting a good understanding of what we're reporting will determine how 311 channels your request. And we can go deeper into that. You know, I'm available. I've overstayed my time, but I'm available. Maybe we can talk deeper into it in the call. But thank you for giving me my time, and have a good evening. We'll talk later. Thank you. I don't know how to close that.
Okay. Well, Martinez, we do have a question in the chat.
Okay.
It says, what about sidewalks that are covered by grass and weeds with overgrowth on Holmes Road near Oakshire Elementary?
Right. So is it current? I'd like to know more about it. So I just need to know what that is. That's something that we can refer. If it's school property, you know, that's something we can talk to the schools. Sometimes we find that we just communicate with that. But with that program hasn't started up yet. Let me know what that. I need to know what that is. I need to know what that is.
Okay, that's
I get
Miss Joyce
information.
Adams is asking that question.
Okay. So I'll send my email. If y'all can put my email, I'll put it in the chat. So if you have access to the chat, I'll put my email in the chat, and I would love to get that request and respond to it.
Okay. And she just stated, no, it is not school property.
Okay, we'll work it out. We'll see what I'll put it in the system while we on the call. I'll see if I can figure that out.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we have any more questions for Martikas or Eldra? Okay, Ms. Tate says, Ms. Candace Tate, how can the community organization support code enforcement? Good question.
And it really is. So we can have meetings like this, you know, especially in person. I know that this is difficult because handouts, you know, I don't want to be a tree killer, you know, paper, but we really need to provide information to the we see you as leaders in the community. And so when you have information, you can share it with your neighbors who won't reach out, because many people have become, quite frankly, people have become apathetic. They just let things happen to them. And so when we have active participants in the community, we're eager to share it with you so you can explain to them to not just manage expectations, but teach people how to report things, teach people who handles what, and that way we can get things more efficiently. And I think that's important. Just have more meetings like this and call for them. You know, PJA is is a good tool, but just calling for people to give us better education on how to process some of our requests in the community.
Is there a process or a number we can call?
Certainly. 311, like I said, 311 is a challenge, and I say 311 only because I see it firsthand, because I get the emails when things don't work. I get the emails when things don't work, but oftentimes I find emails when the process hasn't even been tried. And for me, it's frustrating because it's like somebody being in line on the expressway in traffic, trying to get off on a ramp, and regular people are waiting in line, and then somebody goes all the way up into the entrance of the on ramp and gets off, and then that delays the people who were in line. So.
Well, I have one issue, and I'm stop talking. There is I live in my native community is Orange Mound, and there's an Orange Mound funeral home on Carnes Avenue, and the structure is falling apart. And I've been following vacant lots and areas like that, structures like that, because I'm trying to find a spot to put a children's bookstore. So I'm trying to get Shelby County Land Bank to donate property to my nonprofit organization. And I'm looking at the structure that's falling apart, that's a eyesore, not only an eyesore, but a hazard. It was a funeral home, so there should be an environmental analysis done to see if there's any fumes or any byproducts that's affecting the community youth. But the problem is, I tried to pursue this property and was told, been waiting on the tax sale, which I thought the tax sale was coming up February of 2022, and it has now been pushed out for another year. And I understand that Shelby County is overworked and there's so much blight. I understand that. But another year, so that means that this structure is going to stand as is for another year before anything is done to it. And that's not fair to the community. It's affecting the tax base, it's a hazard, and it's an eyesore. What do you do in cases like that?
Continue to communicate with Shelby County. Now, I don't know what the status of it is. I heard about it when it was in Shelby County's hands, and we don't control, as you know, we don't control, that's the biggest drawback when we identify properties, and usually those abandoned, they start out, we grab them, we put them in condemnation, and because they are in a abandoned state, people haven't paid taxes, and then they're snatched by Shelby County Land Bank or Shelby County to put into the tax sale. And therefore, that takes us out of the fray. We don't proceed with that case, except that when there's somebody else who, you know, if the property changes hands, then we initiate the process again. So, but I would continue to talk to Shelby County to see what the deal is. And I see somebody in the chat say it seems to be in the process of being torn down. I'll look it up because I'm interested in it myself to see what the status of it.
I hope so, because it is definitely a hazard. I would think it would be a community safety hazard, and the health department would get involved in it. It's definitely environmental injustice.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, we have another question. Are there any cameras located along Sweeney Road between homes and the state line? This area is really bad in reference to dumping. That may be something you have to look up.
I can check. I don't have a list in front of me right now. We have about 100 cameras out in the field right now, and some of them, if you can imagine, sometimes we get cars going by, leaves blowing, and so we are advancing our technology as we go. Some of them take 15,000 pictures per day. And so our teams are working feverishly trying to get the technology to the point where we can monitor them from our offices. So we're changing them out. So I'm not quite sure where the cameras are located today. There's a chart where they are, but I'll have this one investigated. If it meets the criteria to get a camera, we'll have a look into it. But it may be one there if it's a chronic dump site.
Okay.
Cars
So-
Avenue found is definitely a dump site, and there are no cameras and there are no lights, and it's just perfect for dump.
So what did you say?
Carnes Avenue in Orange Mound is a dump site. There are no cameras and there are no lights.
So are you talking about right up under the bridge?
From, say, there's Carnes Avenue and Lamar, or is it Lamar where it's Spotswood and Carnes? I may be getting Spotswood and Carnes Avenue. They're both Spotswood, last street, Spotswood and Lamar. If you drive along Spotswood, there's furniture that has been dumped all along Spotswood. There are no lights and there's no cameras. And plus there's overgrown foliage on the wiring. And you wonder why, you know, there are power outages and transformers blown, and it's just a mess. It's totally neglected, and it's a big lift. What do you do about it? Where do you start? And code enforcement, apparently there's no code enforcement. When I drive through Orange Mountain, I don't see any code enforcement. Seriously.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, code enforcement, you know, for the 360 some square miles of the city of Memphis, we only have around 55, I guess, at full complement inspectors, and all of them are not in the field. Some of them are court inspectors, and some of them handle the NPA process. So yeah, you might not see them, but they're working in the area. Somebody assigned to the area. We handle right around 25,000 service requests yearly, and they are actively out there. It's just that you think about the enforcement of law, you're requiring somebody to do it. We don't actually, with the exception of what ground services does, we don't actually remediate these hazards. We notify them. We issue the summons to court, and we make, you know, we put pressure on them to comply with the law, but we don't actually have the authority in a lot of cases to fix it, or the resources to just make people, you know, clean it up, or fix it for them. But cameras, just to go back to that, I just want to make sure I was clear. The covert camera operation, you won't see them. Oftentimes, dump sites, people hide when they dump. They back into a cut somewhere where people can't be seen. And so we have a team that knows how to hide the cameras and install them in a place where they can see what's happening, but they're not identified.
Can we put cameras where you can cameras maybe to deter people from dumping in a particular area if they see the camera?
Hey, that sounds like a good idea because I initially thought that too. But we got an active camera that's a police. We got about 5 of those the blue light cameras. We got about 5 of those in our queue. But one of them always catch people. They dump right under it. It means it's with the blue light splash and they dump right under it. We actually had a car was dumped, and the car was involved in a carjacking, and there was a tow truck company who had his markers right on his tow truck. We actually caught him and got him before the judge and everything, but he actually dumped a whole car that was a part of some crimes right there under a blue light camera. So sometimes it works, but it's hard to track who is deterred by it. But we know that with the camera, people still dump.
And we know that there's lack of resources, so the community is going to have to pitch in and help.
Call.
That's it.
I mean, and it's gonna take all of us because we've done some neighborhood cleanups over in the Orange Mound area, and I mean, where we picked up mattresses, all kind of stuff, and then you go back to next week and it's over again. So
we want this city beautiful, and we're trying to schedule more than one cleanup throughout the year because one is not going to do it. We're trying to do at least 4 a year, but
you know what? This is my personal opinion. If we as neighbors and community, we have to stand up and say, look, that's just like somebody coming in and cleaning up your house. You don't really see the value in it if you don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Right. With that said, Joyce, do you want to go ahead and go into my presentation about litter?
Good segue. Can I
let me say this right quick. A personal testimony. Can I do that, Elgin, before you go ahead?
Oh yeah.
Just one thing. So, speaking of what George said, we had to take a personal. So we had to understand that we have older neighborhoods in my community today. There's a pile of debris. Somebody dumped a mattress right outside of my house. I see it every day when I look out my window. Right outside my house, a mattress and some furniture that the occupant in the house across the street from me put out. They put it in front of a vacant house, which means solid waste probably won't pick it up because there's no utility at this vacant house. But they don't put it on the sidewalk because the property has no driveway, and the people that live there park on the street. And solid waste won't pick it up if there's a car in front of it. So there's puzzles that we have out here that also all of these things are special cases. And so just finding out how to address certain requests is important. But thank you, and I apologize for taking up all the time, Eldra. Please tell us about all of our good work at Memphis City Beautiful.
No, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Actually, I'm gonna piggyback on your presentation, and I decided to target litter for our discussion because it is a problem in Memphis, and we need everybody, like we just said, to do their part. And believe it or not, you guys are part of the solution. So next slide, Trina. So let's get started by telling you a little bit about Memphis City Beautiful for those of you who have not heard of us. You got the next slide? Okay, great. City Beautiful works to inspire, empower individuals to take greater personal responsibility for improving their community. We are a city agency, as Martikas indicated earlier. We fall under the Department of Neighborhood Improvement and the Division of Public Works. Our mission is to work together for a clean, green, beautiful Memphis. Our impact in 2020 and 21, well, we had over 9,000 volunteers to participate in some of our community programs, and that led to over 28,000 volunteer hours donated to City Beautiful in the city, with the total value of over $700,000 worth of volunteer time assisting with cleanups and beautification and other projects that we have. Next slide. Our focus areas as an agency is their litter prevention. Oh, back, Trina. Our focus areas are litter prevention, waste reduction, recycling, and beautification. Next slide. We are the first and oldest beautification commission in the nation. We were established actually in 1930 by former Mayor E.H. Crump. He established us because the riverfront area used to be the municipal dump site. I'm not sure if many of you know that, but it used to be the place where folks took their trash in Memphis. So he saw the dismal sight that folks saw as they traveled through Memphis by train and wanted to change that. So he established Memphis City Beautiful, and our first project was to transform the riverfront into the beautiful scenic drive that it is today. And actually Riverside Drive was dedicated by us and Mayor Crump in 1935. We were also known as an agency for the citywide cleanup, paint up, fix up campaigns that were held each spring in the 1950s and 60s. And we actually won awards for those campaigns. Basically, scrapbooks were submitted because it was a national campaign that reflected all the activity Memphis had relative to Clean City. There were parades, there were beauty pageants, there were tours, there were luncheons, there were all sorts of activities back in that day that centered around having a clean city. In 1978, we became an affiliate to Keep America Beautiful. Keep America Beautiful is the largest improvement organization in the U.S., and there are over 700 affiliates. There's also Keep Tennessee Beautiful, which is the state affiliate, and there are 25 affiliates in Tennessee, including Nashville. Nashville and Memphis are the largest ones. The state also has a new campaign, which is Nobody Trashes Tennessee. That's the theme. And they have various celebrities, including Penny Hardaway, that are spokespeople for the campaign. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about the scale and the cost of litter. There are nearly 50 billion pieces of litter along U.S. highways and waterways. In Memphis, we're spending $8 to $11 million each year to clean up our city. And the state spends $19 million annually. So look at those numbers. Memphis is spending $8 to $11 million. That's almost half of what the state is spending. So that tells you right there that we have a litter problem in our city. Next slide. Where does litter come from? Well, of course, litter is any item discarded improperly or simply misplaced solid waste. Litter is coming from the deliberate litterer, and that's someone who purposely disposed of litter or things outside of the waste receptacle. For example, folks just walking and they toss it on the ground, or people who throw things out of their car. And then there's a negligent litterer, which, things are inadvertently blown out of the back of a truck for those folks who don't cover their loads, or when people don't properly contain their household garbage cart, for example. The lid needs to be on, they need to contain your trash and bags and that kind of thing, as well as commercial dumpsters. Sometimes those aren't kept well by various businesses in the city. So litter comes from folks being negligent, basically. Litter also comes from illegal dumping, where the waste is intentionally disposed of in large quantities and placed in locations that are not intended for waste, such as ditches and remote and wooded areas. Next slide. Commonly littered items. The three most commonly littered items on our local roads are paper, plastic, food, and tobacco packaging. Drink containers dominate the types of plastic and paper waste deliberately littered on Tennessee roadways, according to their study. And in the US, most litter is less than 4 inches wide. And it really includes candy wrappers, gum, and etc. However, the most littered item in the US is the cigarette butt. 9.6 billion cigarette butts are discarded improperly, which makes up 20% of the litter all over the US. I thought people had stopped smoking, but apparently not. There's still cigarette butts out there. And people tend to think that they will disintegrate very quickly, but they don't. Next slide. Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. Why do people litter and dump? Well, people tend to litter where there's no trash can nearby. So people will use a trash can if it's there. People will litter when the item, as I said, is a cigarette butt, or if it's something very small. They'll also litter where litter is already there. So folks tend to think, oh, you know, there's litter here, one more piece won't make a difference. So they'll tend to do that. Also, people litter where they feel no sense of ownership, where it's not their park, it's not their property, it's not my parking lot, so why not litter? Someone else will do it. And then the lastly thing is they litter when they think others will pick up after them. For example, do you guys at movie theaters, do you put your popcorn bucket and your cup down when you watch a movie and leave? You leave it there. That's a form of littering, as well as at sports arenas. So be mindful of putting your waste in its proper place. Dumping. People tend to dump where they don't want to pay the disposal fees. And tires are a prime example of that. And Mr. Muhammad alluded to that earlier. People dump when they don't know what services are available for proper disposal. For example, most people don't know that you can take 2 loads of waste to the landfill with a MLGW bill and an ID. So if you have something to throw away, you can take it to the landfill. And then people dump because they are typically sometimes engaged in illegal activity. For example, if they've stolen something and they want to get rid of it fast, they'll find somewhere to dump it without getting caught. Next slide. The impacts of litter and illegal dumping. Well, littered, blighted areas lead to safety risks and increased criminal activity. Of course, criminals like to do things in areas where, you know, it's a sign that the people don't care. If people don't take care of their properties or they allow litter to remain, it's a sign that they don't care. Therefore, criminals like to linger in those type environments. Litter, of course, has a negative impact on our local economy. Potential businesses or corporations see that it's a sign that people don't care and won't locate here. So that costs us jobs for sure. And of course, litter costs us by reducing our property values by 7%, according to the studies out there. So that costs you money. Litter creates a negative impression for tourists and visitors, which impacts our local economy. And of course, litter harms wildlife and is destructive to our natural environment and ends up in waterways. That picture right there is actually McKellar Lake. Would you want to fish in McKellar Lake with all of that trash compiled there? No, you don't. And of course, litter attracts rodents and pests which harbor germs and bacteria that could impact our health. So I know we're all tired of COVID and all that, so let's clean up the litter so that we aren't impacted in other ways by having it. Some of the consequences and penalties. Of course, littering is a criminal violation. If you litter between 5 and 10 pounds, it's a misdemeanor. Anything more becomes a felony. Convicted individuals face a minimum of 40 hours of public service, up to 160 hours. They face a minimum fine of $50 plus court costs up to $3,000. and then they can face up to 6 years in jail for felony offenses. The Criminal Code TCA 3914-5 applies to deliberate littering, negligent littering, and unsecured loads, as well as both non-commercial and commercial illegal dumping statewide. Next slide. What you can do about litter: you can dispose of your waste properly by placing it in the trash can or simply recycling it in the recycle bin. Or you can pick it up when you see it, or you can organize a community cleanup. You can also make sure your very own property is clean and unlittered. And of course, you can landscape or beautify your property, because studies show that people tend not to litter where places are looking beautiful. And more importantly, we need to encourage our friends, family, colleagues, and especially young people not to litter. A lot of folks kids don't get this at home these days, it seems. People aren't focused on telling their kids not to litter, so we need to do our part to share that message with our youth. Some of our resources as an agency includes our tool bank, which is our most popular resource. You can get gloves, bags, vests, brooms, shovels, you name it. We have it in our tool bank, and it's free of charge. So we provide that to hundreds of groups each year, working to clean up their community. We also provide cleanup support. For example, we always have groups looking for volunteer opportunities or community service opportunities, and we can pair them up with you and your group if you need that. We can also help advise you on where to clean, and we also arrange for trash pickup on your cleanups as well. Another resource of ours is our litter box lending effort, where we will actually provide cardboard litter boxes for your neighborhood festivals and fairs and things like that. It's free of charge. All you have to do is just contact us. Another resource that we have is our Adopt a Park program. We have 60 parks adopted now by folks who agree to keep it clean monthly, and they get a sign indicating that they are a park adopter. Our Adopt a Trash Can program allows neighborhoods to receive up to 5 trash receptacles in their neighborhoods free of charge. We do all the installation. All you have to do is agree to service those trash cans. And we currently have 75 cans out today in various neighborhoods throughout the city. Our Dumpster Day program allows us to help support large-scale community cleanups. We can arrange to have a dumpster placed in your neighborhood so that you can get a lot of work done by having that dumpster there. And of course, we have our 5-2-Clean hotline, which is a hotline to report littering motorists. When you see someone throwing trash out of their car, please report it by jotting down the license plate number, the date, time, and the make and model of the car and what they tossed out. And we will in turn send a letter to the offender that's signed by us as well as the Memphis Police Department. Another resource of ours is our Clean City Guide, which was just published recently. It's a booklet that has all sorts of information relative to concerns that about keeping your neighborhood clean. For example, illegal signs, how to handle your yard waste, to the common code violations, and much, much more. Also, the city is actually embracing our 901 Keep It Clean campaign, and Penny Hardaway and the mayor and the Grizz Girls and others are spokespeople for that campaign, and we're going to ask everyone to embrace it, to rally folks around, the notion of having a clean city. The city is doing its part. There are crews out there cleaning up. There are people borrowing tools from us that are cleaning up. The community's doing their part in some ways, but the litter keeps coming back. As Joyce said, we cleaned it up and 2 weeks later it's back. So we really need you guys to help us combat this problem in our city by speaking about it, by getting out there and cleaning up and doing your part to help keep it clean. So thank you. That's all I have to say about litter. And we'll entertain any questions.
Well, there is a question. Miss Adams says that she would like to participate in the trash cans, and she would actually, do the work herself. So we can get your information to her.
Sure. If you can go on memphiscitybeautiful.org and receive the information about the Adopt a Trash Can program.
Uh, I have a question. I need to address it to Miss White. Okay, you're saying that it's the neighborhood part, and I agree with that. But in the area that I live around Rosewood and Mississippi, the 3106 area, a lot of the neighbors are elderly and they are not able to keep the neighborhood clean. And as you state, it could be cleaned up, and then 2 weeks later, somebody has dumped tires, mattress, baby stuff all up and down Hernando. So what do we do in the area that I live in that trying to keep it clean, and it's hard for us because the majority of the neighbors are elderly and they're not able to do that. So what do we do?
Well, if it's a dump site, as you indicated, you would call 311, and Mr. Muhammad might have more information in that regard. But if there's dumping occurring, you need to call 311 to report it.
Okay, another question. I see where tree limbs has broken off and they own power lines in this area as well. So we, what do we do for that? Because it's been some months and those limbs are still hanging there. And it seems like there's no one, and I've seen code enforcement drive around in this area and still nothing is done. I have reported the neighbor that's next to me that has a car repair shop next door, but he rents the property, and the guy that owns it, that's the type of people that he rent to. So what do we do in my area? Because I have reported it to police, I have reported it to 311. Code enforcement has come out and spoke to him. He cleans it up, then he starts over again. So what do we do? Continue when this is, it's an ongoing thing, like nothing is ever resolved. It just never, it's just ongoing and nothing seems to be resolved. There's trash in the drain. I mean, there's sanitation when they come to pick up garbage. When there's debris that they leave, it's litter all in our yard, in our neighborhood. So I see a whole lot of problems in my area, in my part of town. But when I drive in other parts of the city, I don't see those same issues. So I'm trying to see what is going on, because all I'm hearing so far on this call is excuses. I know about 311. They're no good, but the system is still in place. So there's nowhere that I see that there's an improvement on 311, on a 311 call. But that is what I'm hearing is excuses, but I don't hear no solution. I see boarded up houses directly across the street. It's been not like that for years. It's still sitting there. So I'm hearing a lot of excuses. So I don't see that there's anything that's happening in my area, that I pay taxes, that we have mice and overgrown weeds and trash and stuff everywhere. My husband just complained today, driving up Marjorie. Somebody dumped something in his trash out in the middle of the street. So I don't see the solution that I'm hearing. All I'm hearing is the excuses. And I understand about the pandemic, but this was going on before 2020. So I need to know who I need to contact, because I don't see the city doing anything and I don't see the county doing anything. So I need to know what's going on, because I've been here in this area since 1983. And I've seen it go down. It's gone down, especially around Hernando, Ellison area. It's garbage. It is mattresses. It's furniture. it's weeds, it's everything. So I need to know what's going on. I really do, because I have an issue with what I see, and I don't like what I see. But when I drive to Midtown, when I drive in other areas, I don't see these issues at all. Period. And I know about code enforcement. I done met them. We done met each other on Hernando, and they don't stop. So that's my issue right now.
Yeah, Ms. Williams, am I correct, Ms. Williams?
Amen. That's every community.
Hold on one second. Excuse me, Ms. Tate, I apologize. I just want to, if you have some specific concerns, you said a lot, and I would like to see, follow up on whatever requests. Some of the things you named was something that we could address at code enforcement. Some of the things we can't, with stuff that's in the traffic way and things like that. But if we could systematically address your concerns, that's why we're here. We're not here just to, believe me, we're not making excuses. We do this every day. I'm here. I haven't had dinner. I started this morning at 6 o'clock, getting the team out of here, and I'm still here at 7 o'clock. The money ain't why I do it. I'm here trying to get this done. Like I told you, I'm in the middle of the city. I'm not out in other areas where there's no blight. So I totally understand your cry. I have the same cry. So in order for us to do something about it, though, we need to be organizing our approach. And I would like to have the information, like the repair shop next door. Even though city code enforcement don't address repair shops, we have a partner in Shelby County that does. We can help, we can facilitate it for you. We can address why is a house still boarded, and it may be that it's secure. I don't know. It just has to be investigated. So these things all have special circumstances that we have to address one at a time. Certainly, there's not enough resources to get the things that we need to make. It's not a panacea. It won't be done by waving a wand. We have to address them one at a time. And like I told you, we have 55 inspectors, but they're working daily and trying to resolve requests. And I say 311 works for what we're using it for. I'm not saying that it's the answer to our problems. I'm saying if you call 311, it is how we track how we receive service requests. If you call 311, that's a date proper that you have reported it to a system. And every request that goes into that system shows up, and we see the history. If it gets into the system and it takes an extended amount of time, we can identify it by the date proper that you reported it. And this is how we address concerns. If you come in and you say it's been done, it's been like that for a year, and we only got a request from last month, then it's hard to say how long it's been out there. So, but it's about just communicating what our concerns are, and it's a lot, but we definitely welcome it. That's why we're here. We want to do that.
Okay, well, I do contact 311, but I also have stopped and talked to the sanitation employees, because I have driven by and see debris, furniture just laying on the corner. And I've asked them why I actually timed how long it took for them to remove a television that had been thrown out, and they wouldn't touch it. They would not touch it. And I have called 311. And if I cannot give them an address, and I have been in areas where there were no addresses, there was just a lot. But that lady gave me hell, and I couldn't give her an address. But until I gave her an address, she wouldn't take the call. She kept saying, I need an address. And I'm constantly telling her, I'm sitting at a corner where there is no address. There is nothing here but a pole and some trees and some grass. But she wouldn't do it. So I had to drive and give somebody address to her for her to do what she needs. And I'm trying to understand, if this is a system, Memphis City, that has a system, should have a system, that you cannot determine where different things are. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, if we doing technology, if we upgrading, we can pin where I am on my cell phone. You can tell me where I am on my cell phone, but I can't call you and tell you this pole is down at the corner of Mississippi and Rosewood of Mississippi, and you can't tell me this pole is where it is. I got to drive somewhere to get a address of somebody else's house for you to do something. It's something wrong, and I don't understand. I do not understand. I know it's politics. I know what quite so well because I've spoken with people at Memphis like gas and water. Why is always the power goes out in our neighborhood? And I actually went to her. We was at a fair, and I wanted to know what they the issue. She told me they wasn't the issue. It was the city council office. The city. Why would you not upgrade the whole city? Because the sun could be shining and my lights would go out. It don't have to be a storm. So I don't understand. And I'm looking at, you say you want growth in Memphis, but until you do something for the whole neighborhood, everybody, it's nobody gonna come. And the people that's here, the children that are here, they leaving and they're not coming back. But like I say, I see houses boarded up. Some of them is falling down. And this would happen before 2020. This was way, and it's still there. So like I say, I got a lot of issues. I ain't lying. I got a book.
And I
Let me say this, Ms. Williams, and I do appreciate your openness and honesty about what's going on. But let me say this: it's going to take all of us working together. It didn't happen overnight, and you're right, it happened before the pandemic. But let me say, I'm one too, man. My utilities they'll go out at the drop of the hat. So we too are citizens. We're just trying to work together to make it better for everybody. What's in place, you just got to keep bombarding it. Keep doing it. It'll happen. But because right now that's what we have in place, and you just got to keep making them calls, and you're doing, and I do appreciate the tenacity, because you want to see your neighborhood clean, but you got to keep using what they have in place, and that's not the pie in the sky answer, but it's just the honest answer. And I think we have our guests today are two people that really work hard at what they do. So I'm sure they're going to go back and research what you're saying, and we have the list of everybody that's in attendance, and we'll make sure that we get some answers, the best answers we can to everybody.
But thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Any more questions?
Joyce, can I say one more thing? I just want to say,
Certainly.
some of the challenges that we have, it won't get solved overnight, but we have to work together and communicate. And I understand your frustration. Here in our own office over here at Parkway, a good breeze come by and the power goes out. So we feel your pain, Ms. Williams. So we know. But it's a thing we have to work together. And you have advocates on this call that communicate with me, weekly, if not daily. And I can tell you, all this stuff don't get resolved right away, but we work together and we put pressure on, because you're not talking about things that we're violating. We're charged with ensuring our public does right. Somebody dumping in the middle of the street, that was the bad actor, not the city. Somebody leaving the property, investing in it, and not realizing they don't have the resources to rehab it, and leaving it in the community they don't live in, they're the bad actor, not the city. So we're just forced with trying to track this stuff down and fix it. And we need us. When I say us, I'm talking about, I won't say you, because I'm in the community too. We need us to communicate with the city to make it work. That's all. I just want to say, we're willing to work with everybody on the call to get our problems resolved.
So we got a lot of good comments.
I had a statement to make.
Okay.
My name is Daphne McDonald, and I sent a message to a couple of you. One of the things I think Mr. Muhammad just said, things are not going to change quickly. You're going to have this quick turnaround. And one of the statement that I made was that, what are we doing with it, with this upcoming generation to make that change, to help our kids? Are we teaching them in our school system? And I know you're saying that there are no citizenship classes, but by partnering with, there are a lot of things, good things that are going on in our schools, that they come in and they teach our children lots of things. But are we teaching them, can we partner with our school systems to teach our children about caring for our environment? They talk about recycling and things like that. Our children are being taught that. Are we teaching them? Are you, as a part of code enforcement, as a part of Memphis Beautiful, regularly going into, and I say regularly, going into the school system and talking to children about the importance of caring for where they live? Not, that if you throw down an apple core or a bottle of water on your way down the street, that's litter. It's just, you're just doing one person doing one thing, but there are other people who are doing the same thing, and how it impacts our environment. I think that we should, partner more with our school system, partner more with our young people, so that we won't see the change right away, but we will see it soon.
We do have a new character and a video that teaches kids about the consequences of littering and all of that. And we have a character, we call him the environmentalogist, and he's a little quirky character. And we present this video as well as lessons to classrooms as allowed. We also have a Beautify Your School contest that we have each year with Channel 3 and Landers Auto Group. We are in the classrooms as we are allowed. Of course, there's only 3 or 4 people on my staff, so we can't be in every school at all times, but we do our best. We also have a Waste in Place curriculum guide that we offer to teachers so that they can teach about waste reduction, recycling, and all of that. So we do have resources that we offer the schools, but they have their own challenges as well as far as what they offer in the classroom. But we try to offer as much as we can as a small agency.
And just to let you know, Ms. McDonald, Eldra is being humble. That's a beautiful piece of work that they did. It took some effort and creativity with the environmentalogist. It's a quirky character, but I like that tool. So I wish at some point, maybe, we say children can learn from it, but we as adults can learn from it too. So maybe the next time when we go around, the next time you invite us to talk about these things, and Eldra, maybe you can present the video to the community.
Sure. Yes, but it's being shown in driver's ed classes as well, so that teens who are learning to drive, they can know the consequences and the laws about littering from a moving vehicle. It addresses cigarette litter and all of that. So we have partnered with Councilwoman Rhonda Logan to show this video at some of the summer camps at our community centers and that kind of thing. So we get it out as best we can, given the resources and people that I have.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead. Does someone else have a question?
I have a question. I'd like to know what the progression is for correcting a violation. I'll give an example. In fact, Mr. Muhammad has worked, real well and a whole lot in our neighborhood in Gaslight Square. We appreciate it. Here's the deal. We got somebody who for many years stole electricity, stole utilities, and then his house is in such bad shape now he can't use the electricity, but he doesn't have it on. He seems to be a hoarder. There's something going on. He got his refrigerator on the porch one day, and his car, he's working on it. Maybe exercise equipment. I mean, just look like whatever he can pull out the house. He parks it on the porch. Mr. Muhammad and his crew have been around there a few times. The neighbors spent years calling 311 and to no avail. Mr. Muhammad and his crew went around there and made him straighten it up, at least pretty much. And not long after that, here he comes out with something else. And I say straighten it up pretty much. Is that, our frustration is we never get complete cleanup.
Like the guy straightened the house up pretty much, but then he put a cardboard block up to his garage so you could still see the junk inside. It still didn't look decent. It still didn't look anywhere worthy of the neighborhood. But it was a much better improvement than it had been, and it should have never been allowed to get that way. That's not Mr. Muhammad's fault. We know the code enforcement agent who was kind of in cahoots with people prior to him coming on. Here's the deal. Now we've gotten it into court. The case is in court. Now it's my understanding that nothing can be done if the case is in court. But it's so unfair for us to continue living this way. Now the guy pulling all kinds of crap back out of his house. The house is going back to almost the same way it was before, but where does this rule exist? I've been all over the website, I've been in the law. I don't see where it says that once a case is in front of the judge, nobody can go out there and make them live really environmentally safe for the neighbors. Because there's harboring rats. The neighbors say there are rats. For whatever reason, we can't get Shelby County to come out and excuse me, and acknowledge that there are rodents. We can't get treatment once they see the rodents. So we're stuck. We're paying for vector services, we're paying our taxes, and we can't get, to live comfortably in our own neighborhoods. It's like we're being denied our really what we're entitled to, because that's what we pay for. So, what do? We get what's and then we've got other folks, who he's been out to and made them do this, do that. And then they ease right back into their own ways. And it just starts over. They come back out and they talk to them. We do a whole lot of talking to the offender in the Black neighborhood. Don't hardly anybody gets a citation, in our opinion, they should. But even once they're cited, what goes after that? At what point are they made to pay some money or do some jail time or some community service or something that would be enough pressure to make them stop doing what they're doing?
Miss Whitelaw, yeah. No, that she brings a good point. So the court basically is the extension of our authority. I mean, once we get into the court, not that we can't go back out, we go out on behalf of the court to check the status of it. And the court, makes the ultimate decision on what happens there. Even if the person doesn't come all the way into compliance, oftentimes the judge will issue a court order in a place of having the person to agree to keep the property in a particular state. And if they don't, and they violate the court order, then all it does for us is to we can go out and issue a summons right away, and we don't have to go through our regular due process notifying them by sending a notice out. And so, that's just what we have. We have no other authority. But there are, I don't want to go into it. We haven't launched it yet, but we're working on issuing fees for violators who refuse to comply with the code. And so that's been approved, and we're working towards executing it. So coming up soon, there'll be a campaign around educating the community about the consequences of violating codes with a financial recourse. There will be some fees being issued, but right now,
what happens if they don't pay the fee? I mean, it's
that's the wormhole we get down, Ms. Weller. That's the wormhole we get down. So we have the courts again. We have the courts again. That's ultimately we can't do anything besides that.
Okay, see, I've been told by somebody that was high up that said, once the case is in court, we can't do anything. Well, okay, it seems like these cases get parked in court for years. So that means, if I was disobeying the law, you could take me to court and then I could have a field day. And that's what it looks like, they're doing. I mean, all kinds of stuff that you had no clue was in their house is, on the porch or in the yard or wherever. Those of us who keep our yards clean and keep our homes neat shouldn't have to endure this. It just seems like these rules are in place. They're great. It's a great, set of rules, but they don't work in our community for whatever reason. It's like
Just
we
one question. At what point
go ahead.
does the city come together? At what point, even Memphis City Beautiful, for example, with the situation where they cleaned up one area and before they can schedule another cleanup, it's torn down and we have to clean up the same area over and over. Basically, uh, all we're doing are the same old things, expecting a different result. So at what point, rather, does the city review its procedures and determine that they need to be modified to meet people where they are? For instance, we got a particular different situation in the inner city and communities of color that don't exist necessarily in other communities. So at what point does the city and county stop and take a look at that and adjust their approach?
But even so, it still feels like in our communities, whatever rules, laws, steps have been put in place, then they really don't seem to want to spend a whole lot of energy or money on making sure that these steps, laws, rules are taken or are carried out in our neighborhoods. It just can't be that hard to stop somebody who's years behind on their taxes and been stealing utilities for years and has no money because we're not going to let him keep selling dope to get money to, pay whatever you find him. It just shouldn't take this much energy and this much time
But Miss
to get.
Whitelow, Miss Whitelow, you just said MLGNW. When you was talking, I was listening to the organizations that would be involved in that particular. You said stealing utilities. That's MLGNW. Then you talk about code enforcement, just general. Then we deal with police from selling dope. Then you say he ain't got no money. So so it is a heavy lift. It's a lot of involvement, and that's why it's gonna take the old adage of taking a village. It's gonna take that for us to put work together. You communicate with me.
Yeah.
We will continue to communicate about challenges like that. We don't know what the outcome will be, but we'll continue to push it to get the outcome, the best outcome we can for the system that we have. But for Ms. Tate's point, that's what I was naming about the fee schedule that we have now that we're working on. We're finding there are leaks in the system. There are challenges, and it has been improved tremendously. From 01, when I was doing code enforcement, we was getting from the Mayor's Action Center a paper complaint, to right now where these real time the inspectors see the request that you're putting in the system from 311 on their tablets while they're out in the field, and they're able to address it while they're out in the field real time. There's more accountability, but it's some advancement. So we're working and tweaking it, and with feedback from you. Ms. Alekos can tell you, Ms. Whitelow can tell you that if you give us the feedback, we try our best to implement what we can while we have the resource to do it. And I'm just saying, we have the team in place today that's striving to get innovation. Direct Connect is allowing us to come up with good ideas. My senior administrator, Miss Melanie Neal, is welcoming. She's a creative mind. She's a young sister who's really trying to help solve some of the challenges that we have in our department and serve the citizen in a better way to be more efficient. We face challenges that, like, problems that seem unsolvable because you're trying to make people correct challenges in a society where people just rebel and resist against law.
Well, that I see that, but I guess another point I'm trying to make is we're not getting service from the law that's supposed to be helping us. We can't get the police to help us. They pretty much say it's a black neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff that go on. They really don't see a problem with a lot of the stuff going on. We can't get vector services. You could be standing there holding a rat or a raccoon in your hand, in your arm. They're not going to help us. We get an empty cage, and they tell us, well, we can't put anything down because a child or pet may get into it. Okay, but if you call there and you ask a blind question, they say, oh, our poison's packaged so that neither a child nor a pet could be damaged. We haven't gotten any of this poison, and we've been watching albino possums and what have you come from a certain yard, and rodents. But we've not been able to get anything other than an empty cage. And it was too small for the rats. They were, they were coming out of the yard. This is over many years. We can't get anybody to come and cut down stuff or to make somebody cut down, overgrowth. It just feels like we've been denied the rights that are to the uh, city services that we pay for in our taxes.
Amen.
Can I say one more thing? I guess I'm gonna talk. I love code enforcement, but I love trying to kind of talk through some of these challenges because the thing is, I would light your light and make sure you gaslight square. Light your light and share it with other people. Make them not be apathetic. The people in other communities, more affluent communities, they call, they request, they blow up the phone, they send emails, and we got to continue to do it because to that degree, people just walk right past it.
That's right.
Well, we've been calling too. That's my point is that, we've been calling too, but we still don't get what they get. And my white friends, I don't understand what the problem is because I can just call and so will come out and ain't nobody coming out helping us. They may come out even, but we ain't gonna
you gotta agree that also you have in our neighborhoods, we'll have a group of individuals from other neighborhoods that come in our neighborhoods with volunteer efforts and clean up.
But again, if you give them, I have called 311, and just like the young lady said, if you can't give them a street, I have gotten frustrated because I'm talking about a whole area, not just one street. I just can't give you one street, but she refused to take the order. So you get so frustrated and you try over and over again. It does not make sense. It's systemic racism. And
it's systemic racism. Yeah.
It's
and Mr. Muhammad has been about the only empathetic person. Well, not the only, but one of maybe three that I've met, and he can't.
Well, let me say this.
Call it what it is.
Let me say this. Let me say this. Okay, we're not gonna solve this problem tonight.
True.
But we're gonna continue to communicate, and I'm going to end everything. I want to say thank you guys. I think we appreciate our speakers. We appreciate the honesty from the community.
Before you go, can you hear me?
Well, hold on.
Before you go.
Yes.
I have asked the same question twice in the post, and I have yet to, unless I missed it.
I'm sorry. I just, we was going so fast.
I posted it twice, so I decided to do this right quick. And
yes,
the question is, why doesn't the court have more people out picking up litter for misdemeanor offenses? Because they have to do community service. Mm-hmm. I don't see much of that happening anymore. You used to see it all the time. So
that's the perfect solution for those who don't have the money to pay.
Answer before we go, and I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Donald. We'll be reaching out to you soon.
Hey, Miss Donald, I was going to try to answer your question because I don't have the answer to it. I can tell you that much. But I was going to try to answer. I was talking so much every time I get ready to do it, I had something to say, so I apologize. But they do have the Public Service Corps. I mentioned it earlier in the presentation, where the mayor has hired a team of individuals. They do a lot of good work with picking up litter in the right of ways. They can't go on private property, but they get the right of ways and they respond to illegal dump sites. And those are people who are formerly incarcerated, actually, and that's not community service, not that kind of thing. They get paid to do this, and that would be an interesting question to ask some of our politicians regarding why they don't do alternative services with community.
The people that had misdemeanor things going on, they used to make them go out and do community service and pick up things along the street. So I think they need to bring that back because you definitely don't see much of that anymore.
Okay.
Well, we do work with court-ordered. We do work with court-ordered community service folks. They come to us for volunteer or community service opportunities. So you know, they look to us for that kind of work, but whether or not it's court ordered directly for them to pick up in a certain area, I'm not sure. That's more of an environmental court matter, maybe.
Well, let me say this, and we're going to end it because it is 7:48, and I know some of us have not, gone home, had dinner. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And let me say, I'm going to end with this. Many hands do make this load light. Code enforcement can't do it by itself. City Beautiful can't do it by itself. And if you remember, when I was a little girl, I would see the welcome wagon in your neighborhoods. How many would see that? You can just click, click, whatever. There was a twofold purpose to that. First thing, you're going to welcome people to your neighborhood. Then the second thing, you need to know who your neighbor is. Then during that process, they had conversations. This is how we keep our neighborhood clean, because when I was a little girl, Memphis was the number one, the cleanest city in the United States of America. Sometimes it's going to take us going back to the basics. Yeah, we have laws and whatever that's keeping the houses from being demolished. But when you demolish a house, you can't put it back as quickly. So that may mean that we need to do some other things. And it's a conversation that we can have with politicians, have with your neighbors, because you see children, and it's not, in my opinion, that is my opinion now, it's not up to the schools to teach your children how not to litter. That comes from home, and then it spreads abroad. Now that's what I was raised on. So some of it we got to go back to the basic, and it did, whether your community was black or white. In our communities, I couldn't throw paper in Miss Mary's yard. Couldn't. First of all, Miss Mary gonna come to her door and say, "Look, get that paper out of my yard, baby." Now we cannot be afraid of the people that we live around. I heard a police officer say this once in a meeting, and Trina can attest to this. I'd be glad when I move out of Memphis. And I said, it's disheartening to hear that you don't want to live by the people you serve. That makes no sense to me. So it's up to us. As I've had a house on this side of me vacant, that side of me vacant, behind me vacant. This one is now, the one over here is now occupied. Now, a possum, October 28, 2019, got in my house. Okay, scared me to death. Ate through my floor and got in my house. I'll never forget it because it was the first time we did the virtual summit. I said, well, that means it's a blessing coming. It was the bomb diggity. But I'm saying all of that to say this. We need you guys to support what these people do every day. And it's not easy. I can say that because we work for Housing Community Development. When code enforcement was under us, it's not easy. And we're faced with some things, and some of the things we can't change, but we can change them with the help of the community. So having said that, any question that we miss, we're going to make sure that Eldra and Martikas get them, and there will be an answer. We'll answer them and get the information to you. Thank you again for spending your evening with us. And looks like we need to do this again. This needs to be a regular, Trina. This needs to be a regular.
Yes.
Because I think more people need to hear and understand what we have to deal with and how we can help one another. If there's nothing else, don't forget to fill out the survey, please, 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 please. Have a good evening. We appreciate you. And we're going to work together to make Memphis a bigger, better, and a cleaner.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for the opportunity to speak.
All right. Be blessed.
You
Be blessed.
too.
I see you, Miss Joanne and Cassandra. Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Tammy. I saw you. Where Tammy at?
I
Thank
think,
you. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
yeah. Thank you both. Oh, there she is.
Thank you, Martika.
Thank you, Tammy. I ain't seen you in a long time. They keeping you
I
under
know.
wraps.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Hey, Martika.
Hey, Miss Joyce.
Thank you.
In this meeting, they still on here talking.
I'm trying to go. Y'all already kept me to 8
I know.
o'clock.
Bye
I'm
bye.
trying to
Good
ride
night.
off
I'm
like
gonna end it.
Mr.
Go
Muhammad,
eat now. Y'all have a good night.
Mr.
May God
Muhammad,
continue to bless you all. Yes.
Girl, wait.
what's a good day that I can get in touch with you?
Now?
Okay. What is house?
Okay, I'm
House
turning that.
What? Oh,
on,
you call me tomorrow. Let me see what I got. You sound like I got
okay.
what I got. Trina, hold up, Trina. Don't cut us off.
Okay.
Don't cut us off, Trina. Hold on, Miss Viola. Hold on. Tomorrow is Thursday.
Mhm.
After between 12 and 1, I'm free.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have
Good
a
night,
good one.
everyone.
Good night. Thank y'all.
Have a
Good
good
night.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.